I read some research a couple of weeks ago that said only 27% of executives say that their AI initiative has met their expectations, which means almost three out of every four saying that it hasn't. I think those executives where it hasn't delivered a return and they've kind of implemented a big bang transformation and now they're missing the ROI are starting to ask questions around what went wrong and what could they do differently. I know from our customers, and we've publicized some of these use cases where, we've got folks saving a few dollars a ton in different applications. So I wanted to use today's conversation to really dig in a little more about where we're seeing customers achieve an ROI and what are the kinds of use cases that are delivering that. With that, Karol, maybe you can kick us off here. Can you share with us some ROI examples from your customers in Europe as to where they're applying AI?
I have a pretty good example from my European stainless steel production. So they use AI for optimization, dynamic recipe in the ladle furnace that's being done heat by heat. So in comparison to a classic static recipe, every heat is a new recipe based on the chemistry. And the purpose here is to save on overusing expensive alloys. It's actually pretty easy to quantify because, they know how much they're paying for those alloys on the procurement side. They have these costs. And literally, they know how much kilograms they are saving, and they're still achieving the same quality end of line. And the results are very, very nice because the results are savings more than 10 euros per produced ton of steel. If you produce a couple 100,000 tons, then it's a very decent amount.
That's a good example from a stainless steel producer. Patrick, maybe another type of steel product.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think what we typically see here, what I've been seeing in the Americas is kind of a big focus on quantifying Fero and finding, large savings quickly, with especially in that first year. And typically what we see is customers going after some of the low-hanging fruit in that first year. And some, examples, I think one that everyone knows is Real, who's been our customer since 2018. It's pretty well publicized that they've been using Fero to optimize their alloys. And in that, they're seeing a $3 a ton savings. But one of the things that I think sometimes gets missed in that white paper that was put out is the 15% improvement to quality stabilization. I think a lot of customers are using quality stabilization as another way of quantifying savings. And we're seeing some pretty significant improvements to our quality stabilization with our customers. I see a lot of pipe and tube mills recently using Fero for the ASTM 255 equation there. And so if you've ever looked at that, it's an 8-variable equation. It's something that's really hard to run live because you need to be able to do this in under a minute. And it's something that our platform is helping these engineers apply in real time. And with those DA optimizations, we're seeing, up to roughly $5 a ton savings. And so pretty exciting stuff here that we've been seeing with our customers here.
So all of those examples, I think, have been really financial returns based on raw material cost savings while improving quality variability. I think that's a really good point, Patrick, because if your quality's up, then obviously your scrap's down in terms of your production. So I think you're getting payback on both ends there, which is great. Karol, for you in Europe, I know energy prices have been crazy recently. So if we can maybe move from where we can make positive impacts on the raw materials side, any examples as to where AI can help on the energy consumption side?
We have an example on the blast furnace side, specifically for furnace control. Ultimately, it was leading to decreasing energy consumption by about 10%.
Yeah, I mean, in Europe, I would imagine that's a huge number, right? Specifically, given what you guys have been dealing with over there. Patrick, from an America's perspective, while energy prices are not sky high as they are and have been in Europe, are you seeing the same kind of energy focus? And do you have any examples that you can share?
Yeah, we are seeing a focus on energy because, a penny saves, a penny earned. For the US, I mean, especially in EAFs, I think it's been a big interest to look at ways to optimize, in particular, things like oxygen and kilowatt usage. Some of the team there at Carnegie Mellon University, they've been working with a number of mills on better understanding that relationship within the Fero platform to find energy savings. So there is a push, even though energy costs are less here, to still save on your energy bill here in the Americas.
Yeah, I think a lot of really good examples there. So, on the raw materials side, there's a cost benefit in terms of saving those. There's the quality improvement to reduce scrap. There's the energy costs wherever in the world. I guess, to your point, Patrick, as you said, I mean, a penny's a penny. I was on a call recently with Accenture, and they talked about the potential for AI within steelmaking, delivering, and it varied by production, whether it's EAF-based production or blast furnace production, but somewhere between $18 and $55 a ton is the impact. And I think you guys have given some good examples where you can start to get $2 here, $3 here, and start to save 10% on your energy. In fact, we did a pilot project with Deloitte, and they were able to identify potential cost savings of around $3 million just using 3 applications at a 700,000 tons a year steel mill here in the United States. So clearly the big bang might not be a viable way to deploy AI, but this concept of layering in one use case on top of another, these numbers can add up pretty quickly. We've talked about raw materials, talked about energy. Any others, just as a parting use case that we may have missed that you think might be relevant for folks listening?
Yeah, sure. I could add some parting use cases or two here, but I just want to double click on the Deloitte piece there. Having been part of the pilot myself, I think what was interesting is, I had mentioned kind of tackling that low hanging fruit. And I think that, the Deloitte pilot there within a couple of weeks, they were going after just a couple of that low hanging fruit type applications. And, just in those 3 applications, they're seeing $3 million, estimated savings for that mill. Typically what we see is after you've implemented those couple of use cases, you look for a few additional use cases here in that first calendar year. We've been seeing a lot of interest here in the States on some of the other use cases, things like slag management, right? Keeping quality slag is extremely important. Helps keep your costs down. Something around the VTD duration, right? So looking at things like high nitrogen alerts when you want to see end spec for your customer. We're seeing a lot of applications around kind of soft sensors. And so what we'll see is putting Fero in and having it starting to alert operators when something might go out of spec. And so this is actually kind of a great piece for quality and saving. And then, you're delivering higher quality product to your end user and keeping your customers happy kind of keeps your mill running there. So it's been some pretty exciting things here.
So we started this discussion talking about how 3 out of 4 executives that are implementing AI not seeing the ROI expectations being met. And, I think a big part of that is with folks swinging for home run, hey, let's do this big bang and swing for a home run, implement an AI to get a massive return. It sounds like our experience and what we would recommend to our customers is really to continue the baseball analogy. Look, shoot for singles and doubles, right? Let's go and what may seem like a small win, these things compound very quickly over time. And this is really what delivers the compelling financial return on AI. Patrick, I like what you said, about what we see in our customers is, by the time they get through the end of the first year, they've got half a dozen to a dozen different use cases. And those are the addition of those different applications and those specific low-hanging fruit to where we go from, a few bucks a ton to millions of dollars a year in savings for the mills.